tonight. Senate Majority Whip says the purge in the ruling party will not stop in the parliament, hinting at a president intending to clean the leadership of more than just committees. The party acts, or be it a presidential axe, expected to cut even at parastatals. Good evening, I'm Abubakar Abdullahi. Our sign language interpreter is Ann Wairimu. Welcome to the broadcast. But first, these are the stories making headlines tonight. Good evening and welcome to the broadcast. Let's get to our top story. Now, transport was delayed for the better part of the day at the Malaba border after truck drivers blocked the border point, leading to a traffic snarl-up at the Eldoret-Malaba road. Kenyan truck drivers have complained of delayed testing at the border and harassment from Ugandan authorities. Lydia Gashomo begins our broadcast tonight.
This is the situation at the Eldoret-Malaba road. Truck drivers have been stuck in traffic extended for 60 kilometers after they blocked the border point.
Border imefungwa kabisa na haijulikani ni lini ambao tutafunguliwa. Tuko hapa hivi tunasubiri tungoje siku ile itakapofunguliwa tuende. Mambo kama hayo ya corona kupimwa kule tayari watu wamegomea kwa sababu sisi madereva wanafanya kamba, sisi ndo tunaleta corona.
Theirs is a cry of humiliation and claims of request for bribes by the Ugandan officials.
Kama sahihi ulikuwa unasikia kwamba haturuhusiwi kusimama, na kama tuna vyakula tumetoka nazo kwetu unaruhusiwa kupika na ule vyakula vyako, usiende kwa hoteli zao, usiende duka zao. Lakini hawa walinda usalama wanatugeuka. Zile gesi tumenunua, tunatembea nazo kujisaidia nazo kwa kuwa turuhusiwi kusimama, wanatupora pia.
As if not enough, the drivers are afraid of their safety at the road where they have parked their trucks.
Kudanganya kuna usalama. Hapa ukifika ukishakuja ndo amani iko, lakini ukishaingia giza tu, ukifika saa 12 tumeanza kuwa na wasiwasi.
Addressing the issue on the daily COVID-19 briefing, CAS Dr. Rashid Aman has said that the government is putting up measures to reduce the duration of releasing test results.
I can tell you that this continues to be an area that the government is paying a great deal of attention to be able to streamline this, because it affects our relationship with our neighbors and it affects the trade. The free movement of trade between these boundaries. And it's a matter that is being discussed at a very high level, at the presidential level, between presidents, as well as at other levels, in order to try to work out a solution to this. I can tell you that in the Namanga border, we have already mobilized, and as I speak, the mobile lab is already in Namanga and is being set up. So we hope that with that mobile lab we will be able to, we certainly know that we will be able to shorten the turnaround time.
The truck drivers are hopeful that things will go back to normalcy soon. Lydia Gashomo, TV47.
Moving on, it is a party that was ushered by a public show of political affection and bromance. But if the latest power play and purge is anything to go by, then the ruling Jubilee Party could be headed for a bitter split. Our reporter Linda Alela looks back at where the proverbial rain could have started beating the party.
It was March 9, 2018. President Uhuru Kenyatta and his arch-political rival ODM leader Raila Odinga walked down the steps at the entrance of Harambee House in Nairobi. They glanced for the camera as the nation held its breath. It was a handshake between a duo who had agreed on little more than their mutual dislike. The historic handshake between the duo was to open a new political chapter in the landscape that keeps changing. The suspicion from the president's side was slowly setting in. While the Deputy President William Ruto and the URP side of the Jubilee Party never formally opposed the handshake, the political undertones were loud.
Na wasikuje na kisirani ambayo inakuja kuleta matatizo katika chama ya Jubilee.
The Deputy President constantly reminding his political nemesis of his loyalty to the president.
Hii kijana anaitwa Ruto, unajua kila weekend anatanga kila pahali.
Vijijini hata na huko kwenye vichochoro, nataka nikupatie report.
Factions then cropped up within the Jubilee Party. Tangatanga, Kieleweke, Embrace and Inua Mama. It was more apparent that the rift in Jubilee was getting bigger. Both the party head and his deputy downplayed the divisions. President Kenyatta fired the first salvo in his address to Akorino followers. The daggers were drawn.
Na hayo wenzangu, haitatimizika tukiendelea na siasa duni.
The DP and his allies first attracted scolding from figures in and out of government, with claims of sabotage of the president's plan of a good legacy.
Sasa sisi mtu mwingine analipa watu kutuita sisi wawili we are the terrible duo from the office of the president.
A president was fast losing grip of his political backyard. Raila Odinga and President Uhuru Kenyatta then crafted the Building Bridges initiative, probably as a litmus test to know who is on their side and who is not, or a cleanser to sanitize the defaulters back home. Almost all political leaders flocked to support it, but maintained their stance. A series of pointers have showed that gloves were off in Jubilee, with the president and his deputy headed for an open clash. The latest, pushing the last nail down the coffin after the president blatantly cracked his whip on Team Tangatanga from the Senate.
Mr. Speaker, this is not your decision. You made this decision under duress.
So we must stop running the party as though it is family property.
As the disquiet in the ruling party continues, opposition chief Raila Odinga insists that the Building Bridges initiative is on half-time.
Reggae is on half-time. Baada ya corona, reggae itaendelea kunguruma.
The president and his deputy could be pulling further apart as the president continues to court more allies. The DP allies also say they are focused on the political journey ahead. Reporting for TV47, I am Linda Alela.
Thank you, Linda Alela, for that report. Elsewhere, women and teenage girls suffering from fistula have been urged to seek treatment in medical facilities in the wake of COVID-19 pandemic. And as Calvin Chitwa now reports, stakeholders on the forefront in fighting fistula, a childbirth-related injury caused by prolonged and obstructed labor, have raised concern that many victims are still shying away from treatment.
A few kilometers from Kakamega County headquarters, we get to Weaver's Nest, a cool and serene environment. Here you are welcome with the melodic chirping of birds and a cool breeze from the bamboo bushes. A place founded by Juma Gesicho, a bamboo farmer turned competency-based curriculum crusader.
Like many other victims, Jen, now a mother of 4, developed obstetric fistula 22 years ago while she was expecting twins. More than 2 decades later, she is now back on her feet.
Na unakuta tu naachilia saa zingine mikojo juu huwezi kusuilia. Unakuta tu umejisumbua hata kwa kitanda ukilala. Naona tu unajikuta na harufu mbaya hivi.
Survivors narrate their experiences with obstetric fistula, a condition some have been forced to undergo more than 1 corrective surgery.
Sasa mtoto ya 3 nikaendelea tu kukaa na nikaendelea kusaa. Nikikaa hivyo ile nikasikia matangazo kwa kanisa. Ndio sasa nikakuja kuenda Kisii.
Tuliteseka kwa maana mimi siingii kwa wanaume. Kidogo tu ninatupiwa mate kwa maana sasa bibi yangu ni mbaya. Na kuna vitu zingine. Hata yeye tukiingia kwa gari mtu anapiga mayoyo sana. Nini anachafuka hapa? Sasa sisi tukafumilia. Tunakaa kama watu wajui ni nini inatendeka.
Jane Malangoi from Ntulele, Narok County, a fistula survivor, is urging all those suffering from the condition to seek urgent medical attention.
Kanisa nilikuwa naenda ninasikia kama ninasumbua wale tuko na wao, saa zingine ninatoka nje, mimi nasikia neno nikiwa nje kwa sababu nilikuwa nasikia kama ninasumbua hao. Unaona mkikaa na mtu unaona anakupea distance.
The condition is treatable and victims are urged to come forward to be helped heal both physically and mentally. Dr. Francis Otula, an obstetrician gynecologist, says they still receive cases of women who deliver at home and who develop complications that lead to fistula.
And when you get early pregnancy, early deliveries, the pelvis is not adequate for the baby. So you get a baby delivering another baby. That's why eventually most of them initially used to deliver at home. But at least now there is improvement since we have free maternity deliveries. We have seen quite a number coming here, but still there are few who still deliver at home.
They advocate for sexual reproductive health rights and socio-economic well-being of the obstetric fistula so that the victims are able to recover their self-esteem and fit well in the society.
We are aware there's a big number of women who are in the homes suffering from this condition. And our intention is to try to ensure that, one, we try to prevent more women from getting it, but at the same time identify those who are already infected, those who are already affected, get them to the facilities to receive treatment.
Despite prevention efforts and free treatment of obstetric fistula, many women in the country delay seeking treatment and continue to live with fistula due to the stigma associated with it. Calvin Chitwa, TV47, was in Gishu County.
Elsewhere, the rollout of the competency-based curriculum in Kenya was designed to connect the glaring disconnect between that of school and that of work. And as Mulindi Keri now reports, amidst numerous challenges, creative minds like Kakamega Weaver's Nest have chipped in to fill the gap in helping to shift.
Few kilometers from Kakamega County headquarters, we get to Weaver's Nest, a cool and serene environment. Here you are welcome with the melodic chirping of birds and a cool breeze from the bamboo bushes. A place founded by Juma Gesicho, a bamboo farmer turned competency-based curriculum crusader.
Na mimi ndio mwanzilishi wa hii kituo cha mianzi ambao ilianza tuseme miaka 40 iliyopita. Ni jambo ambapo ilianza kitambo, na tumekuwa tukipanda mianzi kwa mahali mbalimbali, sio Kakamega peke yake, lakini tukishughulika na nchi mzima.
Before the outbreak of the novel coronavirus, Gesicho utilized this place to offer competence-based trainings to both pupils and teachers. Abigail Museve is a teacher at Mahiakalo Primary School.
The resource center is quite resourceful to the learners, especially now that we are doing a competence-based curriculum. It is all about practicals. It is all about the kids learning to do. So I have a very strong feeling that it's going to be helpful to them, because learners CBC is all about learners learning how to do things on their own, and then it also makes learning interesting. Learners will get more information and will learn by doing.
Kuna wanafunzi fulani ambao wana talanta ya kutumia mikono. Kidogo kazi ya darasani na kalamu inakuwa ni ngumu, lakini wakati wa kutumia mikono unapata wanaifanya vizuri zaidi. So kwa wanafunzi kama hawa utapata kwamba wanafaidika. Na kwanza tukiona hapa katika hii resource center, it is mainly based on using the hands, that is craft.
During the rollout of the CBC, the Kenya National Union of Teachers accused the government for hurriedly implementing the curriculum, yet schools were woefully unprepared to implement the competency-based curriculum CBC at the time when the country was grappling with issues of curriculum review and the reform process, teacher training and recruitment. Abigail Museve feels the curriculum will be a success if such initiatives are embraced.
Itakuwa na usaidizi mkubwa sana kwa walimu, kwa sababu wengi wao kweli hawajaenda katika hizo training za CBC, lakini wakikuja mahali kama hapa ni kana kwamba wanajifundisha mambo ya CBC hata bila kwenda kutrainiwa katika maybe colleges.
Walimu kuja hapa, unajua ni vizuri kujifunza kwa kuona. Si vizuri tu kwamba mtu anajifunza kwa kusikia. So kama ingekuwa kwamba kwa mfano katika kaunti hii wangefanya mpangilio fulani kwamba kwa wakati fulani, kwa kipindi fulani cha wakati, kwamba walimu wao wanazuru kulingana ambavyo watakuwa wameipanga, bila shaka itakuwa jambo la umuhimu sana.
Apart from serving as a water catchment area, Juma Gesicho explains that bamboo can also be used to conserve environment and reclaim already dried up land for agriculture.
Unapoambia wananchi wapande mianzi, swala la kwanza ni kwamba sasa itafanya nini bwana? Unaniambia nipande mianzi, nitafanya nini? Na kuja kunisumbua bure tu. Hawajajua maana yake, lakini sasa hizi wakiona vile ina maana nyingi kweli, sasa ndio utapata kwamba watapanda na itatunza mazingira na watawacha mambo ya kukata miti na watapanda hizi mianzi.
As the Ministry of Education contemplates reopening of schools, inadequate learning structures is still a challenge, especially with the coronavirus pandemic and the importance of maintaining social distancing if schools are to resume today. Bamboo structures will be the best option as they are cost-effective and enhances competence-based curriculum. Mulindi Kerry, TV47 in the county of Kakamega.
Thank you, Mulindi Kerry, for that report. It is quarter now past the hour. Time for us to take a short break here on Spotlight. We still have a lot lined up for you. We'll be back with more news after this break. Thank you for choosing to stay with us. Welcome back to Spotlight. Let's get to more news now. The Ministry of Health is raising concern over Kenyans who voluntarily visit COVID-19 testing centers, get tested for the virus, but end up giving false details, hence making it impossible to trace them. This even as the country reported 22 new COVID-19 cases in the last 24 hours. Andrin Kilemi with the details.
As the number of COVID-19 cases continue to rise in the country, the Ministry of Health has warned Kenyans against sharing false information upon testing for the virus. The ministry says the wrong details makes it impossible to trace those infected.
Over the last 24 hours, we have tested a total of 1,108 samples. Of these, 22 have turned positive for COVID-19. In terms of gender, we continue to see the pattern skewed towards males, with 17 of these 22 being males and 5 being females.
22 more people have been reported positive in the last 24 hours. Nairobi recording 10 cases, Mombasa 9, Kwale, Nakuru and Taita Taveta County recording 1 case each. The distribution of the Nairobi cases is as follows. Kibra and Mathare recorded 2 cases each. Makadara, Embakasi East, Isli, Ruaraka, Westlands and Langata each reported a case. In Mombasa County, Mvita recorded 5 cases. Changamwe, Jomvu, Nyali and Likoni reported a case each. The 1 case that was reported from Kwale County came from Lungalunga. In Nakuru, Nakuru West recorded a case. And in Taita Taveta, the 1 case that was reported was from a quarantine facility in the area. At the same time, CIS has reiterated the importance of mass testing, saying this will help in identifying hotspot areas. The ministry has hinted the possibility of lifting some of the restrictions in a bid to salvage the economy, which continues to bear the COVID-19 hit.
The partial lockdown measures would not go on longer than necessary and will be reviewed if Kenyans follow the containment measures that will reduce the number of infections and flatten our curve. I am glad to note that many Kenyans are complying with the containment measures of hand washing, social and physical distancing, sanitization, self-quarantine, and even wearing of masks.
So far, 59,620 samples have been tested. 3 more people recovered, bringing the total number of recoveries to 383. 1 more person has died as the number of fatalities now rises to 51. Andrin Kilemi for TV 47.
All right, thank you, Andrin Kilemi, for that report as well. Now let's shift gears and get to our discussion of the night. My guests tonight, we have on Skype Kimani Kuria, who is Molo Member of Parliament, and on phone, Nyeri Town Member of Parliament Ngunjiri Wambugu, who will be joining us a little bit later. But first, let me start with you, Mheshimiwa Kimani Kuria. If one is to judge objectively what is happening in the ruling Jubilee Party, in your own assessment, are the polls over? Is it over and done for the ruling party?
First of all, good evening and Eid Mubarak.
Thank you, thank you.
On to your question, elections are 2 years now. This is the year 2020 and we are 2 years from next election. And what is happening, a preparation of happening then. There is the assumption that everything is over, that is over, cannot be more misleading.
Mm-hmm.
What is happening, the party is preparing itself, and at the end of the day, we're going to come up with a strategy that is going to use the next years, and even the way we are going to do in the next election, that is in 2022.
If you are to look at what's happening now, it looks more than preparations, isn't it? One will easily say it is rather demolitions of the party.
It depends. If you look at it from the point of view of an outsider, then you could say that.
Mm-hmm.
But remember, that long before I was elected a member of parliament, long before we talked about Jubilee Party, there were people who sat down and wound up their parties and formed one political party called Jubilee. And those people that we would say are the owners of the party are the ones, whether they are flexing their muscles or they're cleaning their house, that's what they're doing. And every process, every political process out there must be strategic. Because trust you me, there is no way anybody, especially a party leader or party officials, can wake up one day and decide on a particular decision. It means there is a path to a particular direction, and what you and I need to do is wait to see which that destination is going to be. And it's not the first time this is
observably, is that direction a direction led by the president? And if yes, is he leading alone?
Sorry?
Observably, that direction that you are talking of is led by the president, and if yes, is he leading alone?
That is very hard to tell, and until that time that the president actually comes out and says that he's doing it alone, then we would say that he is doing alone. But the only thing that we can do now is speculate. Because again, he cannot, there is no, for example, there has not been any letter that has been written to either the Senate or to anybody by the party leader himself. Most of these communications have been done by particular party organs. And therefore, the thinking that the president is doing this alone cannot be more misleading. There are people who are strategizing, and it cannot be the president alone, because if it were the president, like every time the president himself has had a communication to make to the republic, he has come out himself, including the day like where he comes up and says, this is what you're going to do, this is the economic stimulus that you're going to do for the country, whether we are locking down or not. He has more often than not spoken himself. And therefore, the dream that we, like I would say as a member of the party had, was with organs, with a vision, with a mission, with a strategy.
You say there are members who could be strategizing. Let me interject you at that point, Kimani Kuria. You say there are members who could be strategizing. Are these members strategizing for the betterment of the party or to axe out some? In your own observation again.
In my own observation, the strategy might entail acting out some people and replacing them with others. Because every time, like remember when we're going to look for a job, for example, you go through your experience, go through education, and there are things that you say, I want this on my CV, I want this out of my CV. And so the party then thought that it needs to move in a particular direction. And I'll tell you, Mr. Bakar, at the beginning of the term, we were called at State House. And we were read out, so this is the direction the party is going to take. And for the last, and for quite some time, then it was the right direction to take. And so, if then the decision again to depart from that particular decision that there was at first to another one is also a strategy. And that means asking some people, yes, that's likely to happen. But also there are going to be other people that are going to come on board. And it doesn't also necessarily mean that those that have been axed out are destroyed. Because remember, everyone is elected first to represent their constituents.
Fair enough.
When I go to first, I am going to represent the people of Molo. So anything else that I get over and above my representation of the people of Molo is the pleasure of the party.
All right, and who determines at that point?
People have been destroyed.
At that point, who determines the direction the party takes? Is it exclusively in the hands of the party head, in this case, the president?
I would say it will solely be on the owner of the party.
And who is the owner in this case?
And the owner of the party, the assumption here we're making is that this president. But remember also that you believe. Presidents, the Jubilee government was formed between two, by the joining of hands of President Uhuru Kenyatta and the deputy, His Excellency William Samoei Ruto. And so my assumption would be that that direction would be a direction taken by the party owners. And to the best of my knowledge, then those are the party owners.
And if you were to read the communication or the lack of it between the deputy and the head, will it be fair to say that they are leading in different direction in as far as the party is concerned?
I would say that there is a lot that's not being shown out there. There is a lot of cards that are under the table. And to be honest, it's very difficult to tell who is not showing who has which card they're not showing the other. But there was an agreement, for example, that it was going to be a government of Jubilee and going to be led by the President Uhuru Kenyatta, and the deputy would be William Samoei Ruto. To the best of my knowledge, Dr. William Ruto remains the deputy president of the Republic of Kenya, and that has not changed. On whether or not there is communication, is not as you said, we can only speculate. And during 1-2 mini meetings, the president has said that his choice in the next election will surprise everyone. That he's in control. So surprising everyone could also mean that yes, what you're saying that they're not together, that is a possibility. But that choice would also mean that at the right time, because the president has always been opposed to politicking. And so maybe, I said maybe when time will come for politicking, maybe the president will support the deputy president in the next election. But anything outside that is just speculation.
Kimani Kuria, you bring out the aspect of the president saying he wants his choice to be a surprise. But if you flip the pages again, there's a time he said, let me be done by my 10 years. Ruto will come and do his 10 years. That's a statement he equally uttered, isn't it?
That's true. And my statement on that his choice could surprise us. Because there's something that everyone is making, including yourself and I, is that there is no communication, there is no longer any communication between the president and the deputy president. Okay? And so what we seem to be assuming is that the president has departed from his promise of yangu kumi, yako kumi. So in my thinking, the statement that the president's choice could surprise us would actually mean that he could go back to what he promised and actually deliver it, even if we think that he wouldn't. Yes.
All right, for the last 1 week, there are words equally as the action at the Senate was happening. There are words that have been used. For instance, house cleaning. I wonder, you may not be the one who has uttered exactly these words or used them in public, but your colleagues from the same party have, in many instances, referred to what's happening as house cleaning, which begs the question, where did the dirt come from if at all the house needs to be cleaned, politically at least?
In politics, in addition to, and I'll give you this perspective, from the president perspective, from the deputy president perspective, they're looking at the countrywide approach. So the government's worry, or the Jubilee government's worry, should be about the welfare of the people of Mombasa all the way to the welfare of the people of Kisumu. But what I'm thinking of the member of parliament for Molo is my thinking is about first the welfare of my people and my political ambition. Okay, and sometimes maybe there was a feeling that some of those aspirations not agree to the aspirations of the party. And that's why maybe that decision was made. But this, and again I'll say, there was no reason that was given why we should vote in a particular way. So in the same way then, the voting in a different way did not have to have any particular reason. Okay? And for me, it's also a chance for these, especially young leaders, like Senator Murkomen, our Senator Susan Keheka, Professor Kivure, to also redefine themselves and do something different, meaning a term of the 2 years, and even to their constituents. So that is not necessarily that. It's just a different approach to issues, showing that to move in a particular way and we need to do things in a particular way.
And how much of the ambition of a 2022 succession politics did the action have a hand in?
Sorry? I didn't get that.
How much of 2022 succession intentions could have had hand in the action of some of these leaders from their posts?
In my view, the president's mind is in what to deliver to Kenyans in these 5 years. Because many times he has said that he's going to retire in the next election. But obviously, the mind of many of us that are going to remain in government or hope to remain in politics post-22 is not just now, but how it's going to be in the next election. And I think that is a disconnect we have in Jubilee. How do we marry the president's thought that I am here for these remaining 2 years and I'm not in government again? And why now relate now as a member of the party and with my ambition post-2022? Because I still want to go into parliament or to other position in the next election.
Well, in the first term of the Jubilee government, it was clear cut of who was doing what, and as far as the roles are concerned. Why then is it coming out now? Is it the timing of the next election that is influencing these differences?
I think it's coming up now because this is the midterm. It's like halftime. When we're in a March and during halftime, that's the most appropriate time to change particular players. And if you look, we have done 2.5 years as Jubilee government, and you have 2.5 more remaining. So you want to see how different can you do this last half of your term? So I think it's just that we're in the middle of it, and in the middle of it, this is where you can make good the wrongs, and you can turn things around. There's still time, because before 2020 would have been too early, and after this year would be too late. So I think it's just the correct time because it's the middle of the term. And if you see, we've been able, or Jubilee government has been able to execute two budgets and only three budgets and only 2 budgets remaining. And so if there are only 2 budgets remaining and there are things that you want to achieve, then this is the correct time to change your soldiers, those people that you feel you're comfortable with and you feel are going to help you deliver in your mandate.
All right, you clearly put it that it is half time. There's still more years, and as far as 2022 politics is concerned. Nonetheless, where then does this leave the common Mwananchi who, by numbers, elected this government, at least as per the figures IEBC released, the millions who voted for the president and his deputy?
That is the people that we should sympathize with, because we have people that have been evicted from their homes in Kariobangi. We have people that are dying of floods. There are people that are affected by COVID 2019, by coronavirus or COVID 2019. And now that is the next step that we're going to look at. Now that we or the party has cleaned, let's say has cleaned the house, then how do we deliver to the people? If you feel that particular individuals, by their capacity in their offices, were not facilitating the delivery of the government agenda, then this is now the time to focus now on the people. Because if you want somebody to send somebody on a mission, you need to make sure that that is a person you are convinced and convicted is the right person for the job.
And what justification is there?
You change them and you deliver.
All right, and what justification is there to guarantee and warrant a service delivery rather than sympathize with Kenyans? And as far as the new leadership, those who have been put in some of these positions is concerned, is there any justification that service will get to the people now?
I think there's not going to be an excuse for not serving people, for service delivery. Because if you have the mandate of the people for the job, then there's not the excuse to not have. And if you look at even the decisions in the last few weeks, the economic stimulus pact is supposed to go to in employing our people, in making sure that our roads are fixed and so much development happens to the people, then if that is actually actualized, then you're going to say that this happened for the good. But it's going to be also a very tight test. It's going to be a very tight acid test for the government and for the executive. Because if the event then that the needs of the people are therefore not addressed, and people feel that the Jubilee government did not serve their needs, then those changes that were made would have been now correctly justified as having been very political.
All right.
And not justified.
All right, Kimani Kuria Molo, Member of Parliament, you talk of service delivery. There are those who equally observe this as politics of alignment after realignment ahead of any other normal election. What's your view in that? Could the changes be because of realigning again?
Politicians will and always politic, because that's why we are called politicians. So unfortunately, it's a reality that we have to deal with. Politics is going to be our order of the day. And there's also politics, as I say, politics is a game of interest. And a game of interest is there's a lot of interest, especially now, during this transition period from one presidency to the other. And therefore, politics will become the order of the day, whether we like it or not. Pre-COVID, there is always politics.
You talk of the classical definition of what politics is, of course, interest. How much of a problem is this interest then causing within your party?
Sorry, how much of this interest is it causing?
No, how much of a problem is this politics of interest in the ruling Jubilee Party causing to the party itself?
To be fair with you, I really sympathize with my party, and I feel I'm not happy with the progress that we're making as a party. But I think there is still time for us to correct where we've gone wrong. But the damages we're doing, and look at our competitors. You know, our competitors in Jubilee have always been ODM. ODM appear to be organized, to be orderly, and they have a direction that they know they're going to take. When they entered in handshake, they are firmly into the handshake. But Jubilee government, but on the Jubilee side, we don't seem to be in sync, to be speaking the same language. So it's a very trying moment for my party, but I'm hoping that the next few weeks that these uncertainties, these speculations are going to end, and we're going to have one clear direction in which direction our party is going to go.
All right, Kimani Kuria, the party talks of wanting to create a government that is inclusive of everyone, a government of national unity for these purposes. If you introspectively look at the party, it's divided at the heart. How do you create order from an internal disorder?
The way you create order from an internal disorder is by first treating your internal disorder.
But that's not the case, is it? The internal disorder is not being treated as of now.
The disorder is already there. To be honest, as you rightly put, Jubilee appears to be very divided. So the first thing that you need to do is clear that up, treat this internal disorder. And once you clear this internal disorder, you have a common direction, you have a common strategy, you have a common path in how you're going to go. Then after that, then you can form a government of national unity, as you're going to say. But this inclusivity again, needs to be inclusivity of the Wanjiku, of the normal Mwananchi. And unfortunately, the understanding of us as politicians, especially as politicians, of inclusivity is us being in government. The thinking behind inclusivity of politicians, let me not belabor it, is in the thinking that we must be the ones in government. And therefore, that's why you will hear a lot from our colleagues from ODM saying that we are now in government. But inclusivity does not necessarily mean being in government. Inclusivity would mean that your idea and mine, we can put on the table and agree which is a better idea for the people of the Republic of Kenya. And once we there, then you're going to have an inclusive government. And I think this is the wake up for us as leaders and for Wananchi, that we don't put our interests as first, that we don't think, that we stop taking it like for us to have an inclusive government, we ourselves, or I myself must be in that particular government, and taking views of every Kenyan if possible, and having those views, the ones that most count, being implemented, not wondering where idea came from ODM, or came from Wiper, or came from Tanga, or came from or came from whatever. As long as an idea is good for the Republic
At that point, let me ask you this question then. How much of a role, or is there any role that is played in the division of this party by an extra outside hand?
With all fairness, the handshake complicated matters for Jubilee. Because, and I tell you, as a member of Jubilee Party, elected on Jubilee ticket to the people of Molo, we got confused because you do not know this competitor that we have always called names, called the Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga. You don't know how to treat him. You don't know how to some agenda in the house that come even at the floor of the house. You're not even sometimes sure whether they are agendas of the government or the agenda of the opposition. At the committee level, sometimes when you're making a decision, you don't know whether this is the decision of the opposition or that of government. And I think at a particular time, this needs to be cleared up. Because if I ask who is the official leader of opposition, or who is in opposition?
Let me ask you a question at that point. How do you confuse of what the roles are probably and what bills are being sponsored by the government or otherwise, if at all the House leadership is in order, the party leadership is in order, the interest of the party is well stipulated, if not stated?
You stated very clearly that there has been an internal disorder. And this internal disorder, I dare say, is one that has brought this confusion. And that is why, if you read what the chief whip was saying, that there was a feeling that even the leadership at Parliament was not conveying the message of the party. And I'm saying that the disorder that needs to be corrected. That is the direction that we need to be clear about. What is the government direction? Which is the government's stand? Which is the party's stand? And until that time we have that conversation, then we are going to continue being confused. But the conversation as Jubilee we should have is which way are we going? How do we communicate with each other? How do we talk to each other? How do we forge a common ground like we promised our electorates? And unfortunately, that is yet to happen.
All right, let me ask you this final question. I understand we are out of time. Nonetheless, which way for the ruling party then? What should the people who trusted this party look out for at this time?
At this particular time, we are looking at our party leader, we are looking at our deputy party leader for direction. Tell us what you want us to, tell us how we are going to help the people of the Republic of Kenya as we promised. And many of us are ready to support that agenda because that is what we went and promised our people. That is the thing that I promised the people of Molo. And this is his part that I asked what we do. So it's upon us to wake up all members of Jubilee. Let us wake up, let us get organized, let us get focused, let's have a strategy and let us work together. We cannot afford to be divided at this particular time.
And if what we are seeing now continues, the purge, of course, the majority whip hinting that it will go more than the corridors of Parliament to parastatals, to any institution that feels as though the executive feels as though the confidence is low at, should we look out for more action?
I think whatever we saw has been just a tip of the iceberg, and yes, we expect there's going to be casualties. My only plea would be that parts be objective. So that when you're looking at the leadership of the houses, when you're looking at the politically given positions, that's a different story. But if you're talking about parastatals, institutions that directly deliver services to the people, then the issue of party affiliation should not even play at hand at that particular time, or about loyalty to a particular direction. That should be based on competence and the ability of those leaders in these parastatals to deliver services to the people of the Republic of Kenya.
Kimani Kuria, Molo Member of Parliament, thank you for making time for us this evening.
You're very welcome, Obaka. Thank you very much. And again, Eid Mubarak.
Thank you. Well, that brings us to the end of tonight's edition of Spotlight. I'm Abubakar Abdullahi. On behalf of the entire team that made this production possible, bye for now. We'll enjoy the rest of our programs.